This week, African leaders will be meeting at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, for the AU summit. And the president of Ghana will be using the opportunity to rally Africa on 3 key issues. I'm going to break down what those issues are for you on this channel. My name is Nenebi Tony. I'm a Ghanaian writer who lives in the US. On this channel, I talk about geopolitics and trade from the perspective of an African. And so if you like intellectual conversations, subscribe to this channel. So the AU has 2 annual summits they have. They have the AU summit or the ordinary summit that happens in February, and then they have the extraordinary summit that happens in July. So this week from February 11th to 15th, 2026, they'll be having the AU summit for this year, where the leaders of Africa will be deliberating on issues related to peace, security, water, and sanitation. And why did I mention these 4 issues? Those are the 4 issues that have been earmarked by the Permanent Representative Council of the AU. So I said the AU is going to meet from the 11th to the 15th. What is actually going to happen is the Executive Council, which is the council of the foreign ministers of Africa or AU members, they'll be meeting on the 11th and the 12th, that is Wednesday and Thursday, to deliberate on some issues. And then they will present the issues to the Ordinary Assembly of Head of States and Government, which will be meeting on Valentine's Day and the 15th, that is Friday and Saturday. Now, before the 11th, there is another council that meets. Because remember, the head of states are going to be meeting for just 2 days. So they can't just come and waste their time. Everything has to be in place before they get there. So even before the ministers come, there is a council called the Permanent Representative Council. So these are diplomats, and they are the people who meet to write the AU agenda for the summit. And even before the Representative Council meets, right, there are technical committees who would deliberate on issues, and then they will present their various reports to the Permanent Representative Council. And then I think Dr. Friye is representing Ghana, and so he and his friends would decide which of those issues are pertinent enough to present to the head of states at this year's ordinary assembly. But between the Representative Council and the head of states, when the Executive Council, which is the ministers, meet, they would now decide on how the issues the permanent representative presented, how they would be achieved. So this year, the permanent representative highlighted peace and security, specifically in Libya, Sudan, and the Sahel region as things that Africa needs to speak about this year, right? And so because of that, they had reports on that, right? And they also highlighted water and sanitation as issues, as issues that need to be discussed at this year, because they believe that water and sanitation are issues that Africa doesn't need to be struggling with in 2026. So those are 2 issues that they have highlighted. There are some other issues, but these are the big ones. So now, the what will now be sent to the ministers on Wednesday and Thursday. And the ministers will now turn this what into actionable points. And then those actionable points, after the ministers have written them down, will be sent to the presidents to vote on it. So the presidents will now decide that these things the ministers and the representatives sent to us, we don't like it. They should send it back. Let's do it next year. And I feel like it will be because some of these like technical committees, they've been deliberating on these issues for years. So they'll send their reports to the ministers. The ministers will put them into actionable notes or points. Then the ministers will send it to the presidents, and the presidents will decide whether they want to do it or not. So if you don't have power, that's how it feels like. So this will happen this week, right? Why this is happening? Because this is going to be one of the largest gathering of head of states. Different head of states use this AU summit as an opportunity to lobby other head of states for issues that they care about. So President Mahama will be lobbying African leaders for 3 issues. Number 1, for a vote we want to happen on March 25th, 2026. So March 25th is marked as International Day of Remembrance for the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. So that is a day that UN already marks. So this year, in order to commemorate that, Ghana would be tabling a vote before the UN General Assembly to acknowledge the transatlantic slave trade as the greatest crime against humanity. Why is that important? When something is acknowledged as a crime against humanity, every state that is a member of the UN is bound by that acknowledgement. So your state cannot pass laws to try to justify that crime. Holocaust, it has been acknowledged as a crime against humanity. So no world leader is going to try to justify the Holocaust. People who are not world leaders can try to justify it on Twitter and whatever. But when it comes to world leaders, they are bound by it. Of course, we have some immoral people in the world, but this is not about them. Moral people are bound by these acknowledgements. And this is important because there's a lot of things happening right now in the world, specifically in the United States, that has called for this vote to happen. So in the last year or two, some states in the US, like Florida, have been trying to teach students that slavery had some benefits. No. You cannot justify slavery no matter what you think the benefits are. If you are immoral enough to justify slavery, the rest of us as humanity do not agree with you. That is basically what the acknowledgement is going to do. And number 2, even President Trump's use of the caricature of the monkey against Obama and what's the name? Michelle Obama. Most countries in the world leaders will not speak on it because it is a domestic issue that is within US politics. But the moment the UN acknowledges slave trade as a crime against humanity, other world leaders will have a justification to speak on caricaturing of black people in America. As it stands now, no matter how hard or how bad black people are being treated in America, it is technically a domestic issue in America. You understand? Because there is no global acknowledgement of slave trade the way Holocaust is globally acknowledged. That is why Ghana is leading the vote to ensure that happens. This is for all of us, not just Africans, people from the Caribbean, people from the US, black people everywhere. So that vote, yes, Ghana is going to lobby the AU members to support us at the UN for this vote. And that is important because if you are going to table a vote, you need to have at least, UN have about 193 members. You need to have at least a third of them in favor of you. You understand? So Africa, the Caribbean, if they join together, we can have about half. Do I? I'm trying to do some math in my head. And 2 other issues that Ghana will be lobbying Africa to support us on. I'm going to make full videos on them, but I'll give you a highlight. Number 1 of them is advocacy for African financial institutions. So President Mahama has been leading the charge to get Africans to bring our foreign reserve from Western countries to Africa. As it stands now, over 90%, I believe 95% of Africa's foreign reserve is in Europe and the US. What if Ghana keeps our foreign reserve in South Africa? What if Angola keeps their foreign reserve in Cape Verde? I'll explain why it is important in my next video, which I will post the day after I post this, right? And so we are going to hold a whole video on that because it's one of the big issues that President Mahama would be championing as the AU champion for African financial institutions. And the third one is free movement. That is also related to trade and economics. As it stands now, it is more difficult to travel within Africa than to travel from Africa to Europe. And that needs to end. And so President Mahama has started the advocacy to get Africans to be on board with free movement within Africa. And so in order to achieve the free movement agenda, he's going to lead some, conversations around it. And I'm going to make another video on that one as well because that also needs some explaining. So those are the three issues that President Mahama would be championing on his personal capacity as the head of state of Ghana at the AU